class.
All right. Welcome, everybody.
Hi.
My name is Sonny Grant. We're happy to be here. I'm going to let Bethany introduce herself, but we are excited to be here to have some fun things with applique on knits.
Yes.
And giving you some nice tips and hints, working with our beautiful Singer machines. You can do this on a lot of different machines, but this is what we love. I know, Bethany, you love your Singer there.
Yes.
We do have some helpers that are in the background today. Amy McMullen and Amy Mulroney are both going to be helping us. So if you have questions, they're going to be answering. They're going to put information in the chat. So guys, get used to using and looking at the chat for that. And then also we have some special guests. Amanda is here. She's going to be with you next week for our next project. And Steve is here too. He works with our Michaels group and Singer, and just so we've got a great group of people helping. And Kelly, of course, is here. She started us off. So Bethany, I'm going to turn it over to you.
Hi, everyone. My name is Bethany. I'm an education specialist here with Singer, and I work with Sonny on her team. And so today, Sonny mentioned that we're going to do all things applique. And I'll be honest, once you start appliquing things, it's really hard to stop. And I think our display is proof of that.
Yeah.
I appliqued my shirt and Sonny's shirt. I did the shirts in the background in the little onesie. And then I even did this little trick or treat bag back here. And our little mascot today is Mr. Moose. And he's wearing a Frankenstein shirt. And so we'll show you some of those things a little closer up in a little bit, but they're all applique. And we're going to kind of give you the basics on how to do applique and what that term means, so that when you have kind of mastered the basics, you can really kind of make anything. And then the creativity is just sparked. So before we get started, make sure you have your instructions either printed out or pulled up on your computer or tablet near you. There were some prep instructions of things to go ahead and get prepared, like cutting out your ghost template for the shirt we're making today so that you're ready to sew along with us. If you need the instructions, I know that Amy is able to drop that in the chat, so just let her know if you need those. She'll put them in there. And then if you have any questions about the machines or the supplies we're using today, she'll be able to answer those questions as well. And if there's anything that we need to repeat, they'll let us know that. So I think we're kind of ready to get started. And then you know, at the end of our class, we will be telling you what we're going to be making next week. This is a first of 3-part series. We're going to be doing a class, a Halloween themed class every week, starting this week today and for the next 3 weeks. So we'll talk about what we're going to be making next week. And like Sonny said, Amanda's going to be joining me next week to make that project. So we're excited about that one. All right. So for today, let's talk about applique.
Yeah, exactly. So applique is so really fun, and you can do so much with applique, and that's what's really, really neat. But guys, when Bethany and I first started talking about what to do when sewing on t-shirts and things like that, there's a big difference with doing applique and then doing applique properly or making it look nice or that sort of thing. So what we're going to show you is some different techniques, but also some different tools that will help you, especially sewing on knits, that will help your applique just look fabulous. So, and last, exactly.
And you want it to look nice when you first sew it, but you want it to look nice after you wash it a few times too, exactly. and still sit nice and look pretty. So
right. So the very first thing that we want to talk about is we want to talk about stabilizers and working with a few different types of stabilizers. Guys, you can get different stabilizers. We're going to kind of talk about them generically, but Michaels has a lot of these stabilizers that we're talking about. So you can certainly go there, go to Michaels store, but also michaels.com, so they can have that information for you there. And so if you're taking any notes, Bethany, I know did some prep work for you, but you might want to take a couple notes, because I feel really strongly about this, don't I, Bethany?
I learned a lot from Sonny when I was prepping for this project, because I thought I kind of knew the basics for, you know, doing applique. I grew up doing a lot of it, but I learned a lot from Sonny, and she's really going to she taught me some really good like best practices, and that's what we want to pass along to you all today, so that you're really set up for successful applique projects.
So I think we'll start here. So Kelly, we're going to go to that overhead camera for just a minute. And the first thing we want to talk about now, Bethany, this little black t-shirt, what we're doing today, actually, you guys may have seen it in the background. We're going to make our little ghost. So the little ghost fabric, we're going to talk about in a moment. But this little t-shirt, this is a t-shirt you did get at Michael's.
I did.
And here's the thing with t-shirts. I'm going to just go up to the camera a little bit. You can see how that stretches. The trick is when you're sewing, you don't want the fabric to stretch. So what we need to make sure to do is put something on the t-shirt itself so it doesn't stretch when you're sewing. And what that's going to be is, I'm going to pull this over. We have what is called a fusible no-show mesh. This is a fusible stabilizer that doesn't tear away. See how I'm trying to tear that? It doesn't tear at all. So this is what is called a cutaway stabilizer. And if you can see, and I know it's probably hard to see, but can you see, Bethany, can they see how that's a little shiny on one side?
On the side, and you can see that it's a mesh and it's soft.
And it's very soft. So it's nice for the t-shirts and things like that. So that's your first step, is using a fusible stabilizer. But here's the thing, guys, I'm going to turn this t-shirt inside out.
So this stabilizer is going to go on the inside of the shirt.
That's right. Yeah, exactly, Bethany. So we are going to move. I'm going to try and move this over and not make you guys too woozy when I do that. And it might be just so.
There we go.
There we go. Thank you. And then, yeah, so we can do that just a little bit. And then what we're going to do now, each fusible stabilizer. So I had cut a little piece of this fusible stabilizer. Again, the shiny side is going to go on the back of your t-shirt. Okay, so shiny side to the back. And then if you did cut out your little ghost, right, we can see we want something cut just a little bit bigger than the ghost, but it doesn't have to be huge, right? So I'm just going to trim that out just a little bit. And we're going to put the ghost pretty much right on the middle of the t-shirt. And you can have it turned, you can have it flipped, you can flip it this way, that way, it doesn't matter, but we're just gonna put that stabilizer right there. And so each stabilizer is a little bit different. And I am using this, Bethany, you got me my favorite iron here, this little Singer iron, I love it. Every stabilizer, guys, is going to have a little bit of a different instruction. So what you're kind of seeing me doing is I'm doing more of a press. So if you notice, I'm kind of pressing as I go.
And we have it set to a cotton or medium high heat with no steam.
Right, exactly. And this is the one, thank you for that. That's what you want. And basically, a little bit more on the corner. I got it good in the side. But basically, when this is put down, okay, when that's put down, that means it's gonna stick there and it's not gonna move for you.
But that's not permanent.
It's not permanent. That's right. So it will pull up on the edges just a little bit.
That way, when you're done, you can lift it and cut the excess away.
You got
and
it.
we'll do that when we get to that point. But
yeah, you got it. And so this is step one, everyone. And if you're taking notes, step one for a knit fabric, you want I love the fusible, but a cutaway stabilizer. And now, remember how I was pulling, see how it doesn't stretch now. So this is fabulous, really, really great.
It's gonna help our applique or ghost go on smoothly and evenly.
Yeah, and so step two, we are going to use another stabilizer, and that other stabilizer is called a tearaway. Now this, I showed you before, that one here, check that out. It's a very nice paper.
So say it feels thick.
Yeah. And
it's not as soft.
Not as soft. And when Bethany and I put on our shirts for today, we both took all the tearaway out because the tearaway is kind of itchy.
It's kind of scratchy.
This is just fabulous and nice and flat. So,
and one thing, since this is not fusible, we want to pin it in place. So I'm going to hand you some pins. That way it doesn't move around. You don't have to pin it in place, but it just makes it easy when you're putting, when you're turning it the right side out to do your applique on the front.
And I think Bethany, so true. But if you notice, guys, what I'm doing is I'm just kind of pinning the edges. So I'm just pinning the edges. And if I remember right, Bethany, even all of our pins came from Michael's, even this little guy, right? Yep. We did a bit of a Michael's run, didn't we? When we did this, so pretty great for that.
I think I'm at Michael's like once a week.
Yeah, exactly.
For projects.
Here we've got our, so again, step 1, fusible, step 2, tearaway.
Yes.
Okay. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to turn this inside out.
Right side out.
Right side out. Excuse me. Yeah.
We want to get back to the front of the shirt.
We want to get to the front of the shirt.
And I did press the shirt and get the wrinkles out before we started the project today. So we have a nice smooth surface to work with on the front of our shirt.
And you can feel the stabilizer behind, so we can be for sure that we're going to put our ghost in the right place. So
and these little pins showing through lets us know where, make sure our stabilizer is right there.
Perfect. Now, Bethany, while I'm showing this, so here's our little ghost. Why don't you tell me a moment about your fabric that you chose for this? Because this is, I love this. I actually, well, I just love this for the ghost.
So what's really cool about Michael's is they do carry these pre-cut fabrics. They're called loops and threads fabric tissue. And these are just some matching different fabrics. They come in these little presets. And this one right here in the middle is the one that I used for the ghost. So I love that they come with these matching ones for some of our projects that I can use different colors. And I know they're all going to go together, but they have a bunch of different ones. That's what I use today. It's just a cotton fabric. And I love the little zigzag kind of stripe in that. Cute. It gives it some dimension and fun to the image instead of just doing solid white, which you totally could do.
Yeah. So, and this is the template that we created. So Bethany, I know you created this little ghost.
I wanted a friendly ghost. I'm not a big fan of the scary stuff. I don't do scary movies. And I was like, oh, let's do something friendly. This would be cute for kids or adults or even a pet. If you want to make a pet shirt, you could do this on there.
And one of the other things we're going to do in just a minute, guys, is this is really great. You could actually stitch, or you could even use a fabric pin, but we're going to use our Singer machine. So we're going to use our heavy duty and actually use sew on buttons for the eyes. So that's going to be really fun. So
make a little girl ghost today.
Exactly. So Bethany, tell me about what you use behind. This is a little different.
It is. So before I cut this out, I had just a square piece of this fabric, and I used a different type of, I guess, adhesive, iron-on adhesive. And it's what she's showing you here. It's a paper on one side and it's bumpy on the other side. It's Heat and Bond is the one that I got from Michael's. But what's great about it is you put the paper side onto the back here. Yeah. And you press it down just like we did the other stabilizer. And this adhesive right here is going to stick to the fabric. So when we peel the paper back off, you'll be able to adhere the front of this fabric. And what's nice about this is it's going to stick it right to where we want it on the shirt, so it stays in place while we sew around it.
And you don't have to pin, right?
You don't have to pin anything. You're not going to poke holes in your fabric or your shirt. What I do recommend doing is taking your square piece of fabric and putting that backing down.
Okay.
And adhering it, and then trace your pattern and cut it out with the backing still on it. For time's sake, I went ahead and cut it out today. But that way you can trace right on that paper and not on your fabric. So you don't have to worry about it bleeding through. Because when we take this paper off, which Sonny's going to do in just a second, it will, you won't see any of our pin mark, my Sharpie from tracing it anymore.
But before we do that, Bethany, we want to get the eyes and the mouth, right?
So I kind of did a little trick here. I used something just like this. You could use a pen, you could use a needle. And I found kind of the center, and I just poked holes through my through the paper of my pattern, and I used a fabric pin, and I marked where my mouth was and my eyes were. So when I'm ready to stitch and add my buttons, I know exactly where it is.
So how'd I do?
Very good. And you can kind of draw the line through there. Perfect. I can see those.
And then this one,
there's that one.
This one, it's hard.
Probably right on the black. There you go. Perfect.
So I'll make it a little bit bigger.
Yeah, because our buttons. So that will tell me where to attach our buttons and where to stitch them out. So we've kind of got it all prepped and ready to go.
So now we're going to, and I started this because usually it's the trickiest part is getting this started, is to take our paper
Now you see this
Ah.
shiny, that adhesive is coming off the paper and staying on the fabric.
All right. And then Bethany, how do we want it? Do we want our ghosts a little turned or do you want them flat? It's up to you.
Oh, I don't care.
I
Let's
kind of
see.
like
I kind of like him at an angle, like he's
Yeah.
flying.
There we go. All right.
Now, it's important to note that when you cut your pattern out with your fabric, if you're using a different print, to keep in mind the direction of your fabric when you're tracing and cutting out your pattern. That way it's going in the direction you want it to on your shirt.
Yeah. We've
This one's forgiving because it's a stripe, and you know, it's okay if it's slightly angled or vertical or horizontal.
We've actually done a couple things upside down before though, haven't we?
I have totally done that on a live class.
Yeah.
It happens to the best of us.
So I guess so again, guys, I know I've said this 20 times. So
that's stuck on there now.
It's on there.
We're good.
Well. So if we can go back to the main camera for just a minute, Kelly, I appreciate that. Thank you. Guys, I know I've said this like 12 different times already, but that cutaway stabilizer, that iron-on is so important. So make sure you put that on your t-shirt first. You don't need that so much with a woven fabric, but with the knits, it's super important. Then the tearaway, and then you're going to put your piece on the front, because that's what's going to make it successful. Otherwise, it waves. And Bethany, if I can real quick, even though this is embroidery, guys. Oh, sorry, Kelly, if you can come back for just a minute to the overhead. I didn't mean to do that. I know this is embroidery, everybody, but this was actually, we didn't do this. This was done, and can you see how this is kind of puckered? That's a good word for it. The trick is, without using that cutaway stabilizer, that very first thing we ironed on, this is what happens because tearaway won't hold it nice and flat. So guys, that is why we were so careful. Okay, so now we can go back to the front one. Thank you, Kelly, for being so quick with that. But that's why it was so important that you know the steps. So before we go to the machine though, Bethany, let's ask, do we have any questions, Amy? Or
we shared a lot of information, and there's 3 different types of stabilizers that and adhesives that we've used. So we want to make sure that everybody's clear on those steps, because that's really going to give you a good foundation to successful applique.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay.
I did want to know how you got her moose here.
No.
I said Vicki wanted to know how you got her moose here.
You know, Vicki,
I've had that moose since I was little.
Yeah. I was gonna say he just hitchhiked here for a minute for that. So all right.
Awesome. So we're gonna head on over to the sewing machine, Kelly. So today I'm sewing on the Singer Heavy Duty 4452. You do not need a heavy duty machine to sew applique. It's just the one that I chose to use for today's project. We do have the other machines that are available at Michael's sitting behind us as well. You could use any of those machines to do this project. But what we're going to start with is setting our machine to the right settings for applique. Now there's different types of stitches you can use on applique, and I think Sonny's going to show you in a minute some of those different examples. But what we're going to do today is basically a zigzag stitch that's very close together, or what looks like a satin stitch. Okay,
pretty traditional. Right?
Yes, yes. So it does take a little while to get around the ghost. We'll try to do as much of it as we can today. If we don't get it all done, we'll finish it later. But what we're going to do is, I've got black thread in here. I'm choosing to match my fabric and my, but you can do something contrasting. You do not have to do a matching thread. It's totally up to you. I'm just using an all-purpose thread. You can also use a rayon thread, which is, we have some of that right here. It's got like a kind of a shimmer sheen to it. It's what I used on Sonny's shirt when I did her leaves on it. But what I have this machine set to is a zigzag stitch, and I'm going to turn this so you guys can see this a little bit better. So I have it set to a zigzag stitch, and I have a width of 4, which is what I'm choosing to use because of the size of my applique. Sometimes for smaller appliques, you may want to do it a little smaller width of your zigzag. Or your stitch. And then for the length, I want very little length. I'm not to a 0. Obviously, we want the fabric to feed through the machine. But for this machine on a dial, I have it set where it's almost to the buttonhole setting. It's kind of in between the 1 and the 0 for my stitch lengths. And you'll see what I'm talking about in a second when we get started on what that ends up looking like on the fabric. But that's what we're going to set it to. And then I'm just going to start. It's easiest to start kind of in a corner point, and we're going to work our way around. And you'll notice as we start stitching around, there will be times where I'll stop and have to lift my foot and kind of shift my fabric around as we go around these curves. What's great about these machines is that extra lift to get the whole shirt under there.
Love it.
And we want to make sure our stabilizer's still down, all of our layers are in place. And I'm going to,
Bethany, before, just one more machine setup thing for me is what presser foot do you have on?
we have, let's see here. The open,
That is your,
it's not the open toe one.
this is actually your decorative
Decorative
sewing.
one, yes. I had the open toe one out here somewhere, and I think I put it in the little.
Yeah. The reason why I wanted to make a comment on that, everyone who's listening, is that either open toe or a decorative sewing foot, it has a groove underneath. So in the back and underneath the whole foot, there's a little groove. And so when you bring your stitches so close together, you don't want any machine to stop. So that foot allows it to move nice and easy. And so that's really important, is the type of foot that you're choosing.
And I like the clear. It
Yeah.
helps me see where the edge of my fabric is.
Yeah, so that's going to be real important. And those feet, again, it's going to be super important to have a foot like that has the groove. And Bethany, again, your preference is the clear foot. So that's great.
So I am going to lower my needle. We're just going to get to stitching right now. We can do a couple if we want just to go back, but we're going to come back around that anyways.
So hopefully you guys are able to see this. And Kelly, I am going to ask a question of you. I know the machine is running. Can you hear me at all?
Yes, I can hear you.
You can or cannot?
I can hear you.
Okay, perfect.
I'm
because-
going to keep sewing around the ghost.
Yeah.
And Sonny's going to show you some examples of different types of appliques and using different types of decorative stitches to applique.
Yeah.
So,
And Amy has a question for us. So
Yes, what's the position of the needle on the design? So are you centering it on the edge or?
you want the stitch to catch your applique fabric and your shirt. So for me, because this is a pretty simple design that we're going around, I am kind of lining my fabric up with this. There's a center notch right here on my foot. And so I'm kind of using the edge of my fabric, my applique fabric, as the center here, so that I'm sure to catch both sides of the shirt and the applique fabric. Sometimes you can line it up if you're doing a tighter stitch where the outside stitch is right along that edge as well. It's kind of preference, and it depends on the stitch that you're using.
yeah, that's great. So wonderful. So
I'm sorry?
What's the needle?
This is an all-purpose needle is what I'm using.
Yeah, so I use a lot of universal
Yeah,
needles,
universals.
which is what I like for a lot of my sewing. But also you could use like a ballpoint needle, but universal needles, everybody, those are semi-ballpoint. So they work fabulous. So it really works well with that, just with a regular universal needle.
And those were
really is a-
great questions,
Yeah,
by the
great
way. Thank you
questions.
for
Yeah.
asking those.
Cool.
So I'm going to get back to this sewing here, and I think Sonny's going to show some things on the overhead camera, Kelly.
Yeah.
As long as you guys can hear us. If at any point you can't, just let me know. I can stop.
Yeah. So as Bethany was saying, it just kind of, we're showing you the basics of the basics of applique, but there are a lot of other specialty appliques. And once you learn the applique itself, then you can start doing other decorative stitching with that beautiful satin stitch. So I'm actually going to start here, and I just drew this little piece, and that is using that rayon thread on a woven fabric. So again, using the tearaway stabilizer, and you can see how pretty it is just for a little napkin. So just a little decoration on a napkin. Really beautiful, but you can also see, I'm going to bring this up pretty close. See how close together the stitch is? That's why you need that special foot. So that's why it's important to have that foot. Another one for any of you who maybe have been taking a couple of our other classes. I've shown this little dress a couple times, but to me, this is the sweetest little dress. And Amy has actually both Amy's that are helping us today have little girls. So I know both of them are like, oh, that's so cute. But this is what is called, everybody, a reverse applique. So you know what Bethany's doing as far as putting the fabric on top? What I did here, and actually I lined it, so it's kind of hard to see, but what I did here is I put the fabric behind. And then you could see the fabric come through, so it's a little bit more subtle. So it's, again, that's called reverse applique, where the dark fabric is behind and you see it come through as more of a shadow, right? Some people might call it shadow applique. Same technique, right? So using that nice pattern stitch and just building as you go. So same technique.
I'm making good progress. If you hear me stop, it's because I'm pivoting. Can we go to the sewing machine real quick, Kelly? So when you hear me stop, it's because I'm lifting my foot. I'm leaving my needle down so I don't lose my positioning, and I'm just shifting the fabric and adjusting. I want to make sure that I'm not catching the back of the shirt as well. So we're kind of adjusting and shifting as we make our way around the ghost. But that's just important. I want you guys to know that when you need to lift the foot and move your fabric, to leave your needle in the down position to hold your place. And when you're kind of shifting around a curve, you want to stop with the needle on the outside so that when you lift the foot and turn in, that you're not getting a gap in your stitches, because these satin stitches, as you can kind of see right here, it's kind of hard to see because it's all black, but they're all really close together. That's why it takes a little bit to get around our applique, because we're doing a tight stitch, zigzag stitch all the way around. But we're almost there. We're about halfway around this little ghost. So I'm going to keep going and let Sonny jump back over to that overhead camera. But I just wanted to point out kind of some of those steps when going around something that's curved.
Curved, yeah, exactly. And often we have curves. So guys, this one, I have to say, this little sample is quite an advanced little sample, but this is what we strive to, right? This is what we want to look to. This is that same sort of reverse applique, but if you look here, I had a couple different layers of fabric, right? So all satin stitch, same thing that Bethany's doing, except I cut out more fabric, left more fabric here. So you can see how there are different colors, actually, different amounts of fabric here. So again, this is a little table runner, but again, a little bit more advanced. So we want to inspire you a little bit today as well. So I think that's really great. And then the very last sample I want to share, and Bethany, you are like, you're going crazy. We didn't know if we would have time.
We are going to get this
perfect
put on here completely.
That's great. That's great.
This machine is just doing such a great job.
Yeah, it looks beautiful.
It does.
Yeah, so I'm going to talk about this, and then I'm going to ask you a question about what you're doing.
Perfect.
Here. So I just wanted to share, just so Kelly doesn't have to keep flipping around. You know, guys, the satin stitch is the most traditional sort of applique. It's the most traditional sort of applique. But if you look closely at a couple of these little pieces, can you see how I did some decorative stitching? Every machine is different. So depending upon your machine, notice though how I did some decorative little flowers. Here, I did a satin stitch and then used a little metallic thread over the top. So there are so many different ways to actually do appliques. It all starts with your stabilizer, as we talked about, making sure you've got the right stabilizer thread. And thank you for asking about the needles, because the needles are also very important. So Kelly, if you can go back to Bethany for a minute. And Bethany's, I caught her right in the middle of this little curve here. But one of the beautiful things about, again, our Singer machines is we do have the ability to change our tension just a little bit. And guys, I know, because I've been sewing for a lot longer than I want to admit sometimes, but we're told all the time that, hey, you should never touch your tension. Leave your tension. Don't touch your tension. I completely disagree, because you can get a much prettier satin stitch if you take your top tension just a little bit lower. So if your normal top tension is set at 4, I take my tension when I'm doing applique down to 3 or a little bit less, because it makes the top prettier and takes that thread around the outside edge. And now, Bethany, that was perfect timing. I can't believe
I got around it that quickly.
All right. So
Trim my
let's see
threads
what
here.
you did. I'm so excited. And we'll have to zoom out maybe a little bit.
Let's see if I can find my under thread there. There we
There
go.
we go.
Let me zoom this out a little. Oh, that's the wrong
Wrong
direction.
way. There we
I
go.
always go the wrong way. All right, so
Check it out. Yay,
it is sewn
Mr.
on
Jones.
all
That's
the
so
way around,
exciting.
all the way around our curve. I
Wow.
just need to trim our threads down here on the bottom
How fun.
where we started and ended.
And you're making a whole family. We have the dad and a toddler up here of the
I
ghost. So
know.
we'll have to show that when we come back. But you still have a couple other little things
I
to do,
do.
right, Bethany?
So I need to do the mouth that we kind of drew on, and I need to attach the eyes. I'm going to do the mouth first, and then I'll change my foot to the buttonhole foot for
Button
the for the buttons. So I'll just go ahead and do the mouth first. But
All right.
if you want to maybe show them the Frankenstein shirt, because I used a lot of different stitches for that one, and that one's fun.
Well, she's turning that inside out. Vicki, here's your moose. So if actually, if we can go to the overhead again for a moment, or the front, that's good. No, you're good right there.
That's perfect.
That's perfect, Kelly. Thank you. Here is your moose, Vicki, and here is the little Frankenstein shirt. And basically we appliqued this top part with the eyes, and then just did some satin, some fun stitching down here. Oh my gosh, I think this is, and there
And
he
I
is.
used some decorative, like different threads on this one, like for the bolts. I don't know if they can see the bolts up close. There is like a silver, like metallic thread, and
Hold
I
on
did
here.
the back and forth so it looked like little screw marks, like so it actually looks like a bolt.
Oh, if I can get him up here. There we go. Can you see that
Yeah.
a little bit? There we go. I
But
love
you can
him.
really
I
you can
love
do
him.
contrasting threads and all sorts of things.
Yeah.
And what he's wearing on his face is another Frankenstein part of his outfit, but this is a little sneak peek of what we're going to be doing next week.
Yeah, next week. So
And we'll talk about those in a
Very
minute. I'm
fun.
going to get this mouth sewn on real quick.
So the cool thing is, again, for all of these different things, everybody, the technique is the same. There's nothing that changes. We use the right stabilizers. You use, your tension a little bit lower. You can change your stitches, of course, but gosh, we've got lots of different options for us. Behind Bethany, so up over here, she made a little cauldron on a little bag back here, and used a little
trick-or-treat bag.
trick-or-treat bag.
Yeah.
And our family of ghosts here. So really, really cute, cute little guys. And I think we have a claim on the shirt already. So Bethany, you have
On the Frankenstein
on the
shirt.
Frankenstein shirt.
Yes.
So anyway, so really fun stuff, guys, as we're going through. And so Bethany is just finishing up the mouth.
Now the mouth is a little, you have to go take your time. Don't rush through it.
Yeah.
It's a tighter curve. Do a little bit, leave your needle down on the outside, lift your foot
Turn
your
as you
fabric
go.
as you need
Yeah.
to. Take your time with it.
All right.
Yeah, we're almost there. And then we'll attach our eyes, and then we're pretty much done with our little ghost shirt for today.
And guys, again, the applique not just for shirts, right? It's for
No.
bags.
I mean, I did
it's
the
for,
little canvas tote.
yeah, table runners. It can be for anything. But we thought,
Placemats. I know
Place-
we've done some for placemats
Yeah.
and towels, decorative towels. It's just a fun way to add
lots of
a
stuff.
little extra
Lots of
something.
stuff.
Yeah.
Vicki, I'm taking very good care of him this year. He's just hanging with me here. So, all right. So finishing up with the mouth. So that's great. And Bethany, the next thing is going to be the eyes, which are going to be buttons. And I know you're going to walk us through that as well. Any other questions going on, Amy? Or
No, everyone's loving the Frankenstein.
the Frankenstein. I think, yeah, he's adorable. Okay.
And then one thing I want to mention, it's really important to make sure that you have a full bobbin when you
Yes.
start doing applique, especially if you're doing this tight satin stitch. It goes through a lot of thread. So make sure you have plenty of thread on your spool up top and on your bobbin below. So make sure it's fully loaded, because you will go through quite a bit.
Yeah.
It's
And
a tight stitch. So
it's a tight
you're
stitch.
stitching a lot more than you realize.
And one of the things that I will often do is have a couple different, I'll have a couple bobbins wound. So if I'm doing a lot, so, your machine will always come with a few bobbins, but I have stacks of bobbins.
I do too.
I just go ahead and get another package, get ready to go. That way I have them all in the colors. I need.
Yeah.
So.
All right, so I went ahead and took the pins out just so I can stop poking myself with them,
Yeah.
because our stabilizers are not going anywhere. As you can see, if we can switch to the sewing machine, as you can see, there's the inside of the shirt. Here's where I stitched around. Here's my little mouth. I'm going to trim my little threads. And then I'm going to switch our foot on the machine.
And Bethany, at this point, as you're switching that, you could take that outside part of the tearaway off, right?
You
Because you're
could.
not using that. That's that, and we can show them how easy that is to do when you get done. But the buttons sew-on foot, I love this foot.
It comes with the machine.
It comes with our heavy duty. It comes with most of our Singer machines. And the cool thing about it is, people come to my house. I have visitors or guests or different things like that. And they always say, oh, will you help me sew on a button? And instead of giving them a needle, I actually take them to my machine and show them how to do it on the machine.
It's so much easier.
It's so
than a
much
needle and
easier.
thread.
It
So we're going to
is,
show
yeah.
it now. To set yourself up to use this foot, and I'm going to zoom back in again so you guys can really see what we're talking about. This one's got blue on the end. It's kind of like a rubbery. It's going to hold our button in place right where we need it when we put our shirt on there. But before we can do that, when you're sewing on a button, you just need the stitches to go back and forth. We don't need the fabric to feed through here. So obviously we need our feed dogs or feed feet or a little feed teeth or whatever you want to call it to go down. So you can actually lower those, and we're going to remove
Actually on the back. Yeah.
I'm gonna have
can
Sonny
get it,
flip it
yeah.
because she can see it.
But watch the feed dogs here, because I'm going to flip it, and what you're going to see how they went
disappear.
down. Yeah. So it was like very, very quick and very easy. And
And then
just
to get
pulling
them
my
to
threads.
come back up,
We're going to push it over.
push it back over, but you see they don't come up. We're going to do one full stitch, and they rise back up after you do
Yeah.
one full stitch.
That's important that you realize that, because we have phone calls. People are like,
Yes.
oh, my feed dogs didn't come up, but you have to take one stitch. To
Yeah,
be
one
able to
full
get
stitch rotation for them to feed back up to the top. It won't just pop back up. So I'm going to stick our little,
And this is one of the reasons why, Bethany, I think we love the heavy duties. It's got the feed dog drop, but there are some machines that you put a cover over the feed dogs or
There's
different
different
things
ones.
like that. But this is really great.
Makes it
for-
easy.
Makes it easy. That's right.
So now that my feet are down and out of the way, our fabric won't feed through, it'll stay in place. And I'm going to find my little blue dot right here. And I've got a button that just has the two holes side by side. And I'm going to line those center of those 2 holes on that little blue dot and kind of put it up under my foot and lower my foot. Now, I don't know if this is in the right spot just yet, but we're gonna test it out. I'm gonna leave it, I'm gonna turn my stitch length to 0. We do not want it moving, and it's not going to because we have our feed dogs down anyways. I'm gonna set it to 3 width, because that's typically where we start out with buttons, is they typically are a zigzag stitch that's just a 3 millimeter width, and we're just going to lower down. Now that's a little close. I'm just going to shift it over just a stitch. There we go. So I'm going to put my needle down. See that? It's cleared the hole. We want to take it nice and slow. I'm using the hand wheel. I do not have my foot on the foot control on the floor. Now this one's, it's going to cut it a little close. So I'm going to adjust my width to a 4.
Yeah.
And it clears it. So now that I've kind of gone back and forth and made sure that my needle is not going to hit my button, you don't want to break your button, you don't want to break your needle. I'm going to take it nice and slow. Now that I know for sure it's going to clear both sides, I can use my foot control.
And is there a number of times you go over that, Bethany? No,
Not really. I mean, I
kind of
kind of
personal preference
do
to see.
several stitches. You know, I want to make sure that it's really on there secure.
Yeah.
All right, so now I can just lift my foot and my button is on there and
That
trim
is
my
so great.
threads.
What a great way to do that.
And
All right,
I'm
and
gonna
go to your
shift
next one.
over. I know that width is the right width, but I still need to make sure that my button is in the right place under the foot, so. Yes, yeah.
So guys, I know you can't, you're watching Bethany on the machine, but I'm watching Bethany on the machine too, on the screen, because it's really cool to be able to see this.
Lost my thread. I gotta rethread it real quick. That happens sometimes. Do this quickly.
And while Bethany is doing that, guys, as far as the, buttons, be careful. Some buttons, if you have older buttons, you're probably going to end up, it may change, but usually 3.5 to 4, that's a good place to start for buttons today, because most buttons today are the same distance between those 2 eyes of the button. So just be aware, take your time, just like Bethany's doing, make sure everything is all set. And then once you get that in the right place, the sew on button foot for me is a lifesaver, because otherwise I've seen people use tape, use, glue, different things like that. It's not worth it. That sew on button foot does it all.
It
So
makes
it's
it
great.
easy. It takes out the guesswork, and it's going to be on there very securely. So
Okay.
now I have my little button eyes.
Oh, how great. Right.
I always zoom the wrong direction.
There we
I
go.
need to mark it on the camera.
Yeah.
There we go. And I'm going to pass this over to you, because I think you have a trick on how to hide these threads. If we can go back over to the overhead camera.
I'm going to keep our moose here with us, because he's very,
I'll scoot him out of the way for that.
He's just our
He's going to sit in my lap for a
Okay,
minute
there we
while
go.
you do that.
all right. So guys, with the eyes, okay, so make sure I'm in the right spot here. With the eyes, I like to pull the threads to the back and tie them. So truly, I'm going to use that stiletto that you were using earlier, that we used earlier, Bethany, but I'm just going to pull that. I know it's a little hard to see for some of you, but I'm just pulling the thread from the top to the bottom. And I will say, if I can only get, that's scary. I do have my glasses on too. If I can only get 3 of the threads, that's okay. And what I'm going to do is then take this and just tie a little knot. That way it's going to be super secure when you wash it and launder it and do that sort of thing. So I'm not going to do that to both. Just so you know, you just pull at least 1 thread behind, and then this one is not going to go anywhere, and I can trim that on top. So I'm just going to trim these 2 real quick here, just so we can show our finished product. Isn't he just the cutest thing?
And then
There
for
we
the
go.
inside, if you want to turn it the inside out, we can show how to kind of finish up with all of this stabilizers. So remember, this tears.
So the tearaway itself,
Quite satisfying to tear it
Yes,
off.
it is.
I enjoy that part. I'm
yeah,
like, get
it's,
out of here.
it's perforated, right?
Mhm.
So this is all perforated. So it's
From where we stitched around it.
right.
So it shall follow right along.
Super easy.
I didn't trim my threads earlier.
That's okay. That's okay. And this is what we were talking about. There is still stabilizer, the tearaway that's going to come off. See how that's good. You want to take that off too.
That's
So-
what makes it feel a little itchy. when you
Itchy,
put it on.
yeah, exactly. So that's where you want to get all of that out of there. That's the beauty of tearaway is it does what its name says, is it is tearing away. Be a little careful around the eyes and the mouth, but there's that. But then this is what Bethany was talking about earlier is this pulls away a little bit.
Mhm.
It's iron rather than,
Temporary hold.
yeah, it holds it, but you got, here's the important part here, guys, is you don't want to take it all away.
Mhm.
That's why the softness, that's what happens is people, I'm just gonna do a little bit here, Bethany. We're just gonna get up pretty close. I could get up even a little bit closer. But basically, people take all of this away. You don't want to do that. You want to leave it. If any of you have ever purchased a shirt or something, a polo shirt that has a logo on it, you'll often see that there's like a little piece of white stabilizer underneath that logo. And that really is, that's the same sort of thing. So.
That turned out so
Yay, all
cute.
right.
No, I think it would be really fun to like put a little pink hair bow on it, or a little bow tie for a boy, or a mustache. You can do all sorts of little fun things to decorate them with some little pom-poms across the bottom. I mean, we're giving you guys the basics so you can really run with it and be creative. So do we have any questions?
Guys, we've still got a couple things we want to show, but you're
Let's
being
go to that
very
front
quiet
camera,
today.
We'll go back to that front camera. Perfect. So next week, as I mentioned, we're going to be doing another project with you all here on Michael's and their free Zoom classes. And next week, we're going to make the cutest little felt masks. Now, these could be for kids, but you can size them up to make them for adults or whoever. We have one on Mr. Moose today. He's wearing his Frankenstein outfit. But we're going to be making all 4 of these next week. So we have a pumpkin, we have a ghost, we have a cat, we have Frankenstein. Oh yeah, mummy, not a ghost, a mummy. We did a ghost today. But we're going to show you guys how to do that. These are sewing with felt. So this is more of like a crafty kind of sewing, something a little different. If you've never sewn with felt, this is going to be so much fun. I got all of the felt products and everything at Michael's, and Amanda's going to be joining us next week to do those. So we'll be talking about some really fun feet that you can use to add some decoration to these as well. So we'll have a lot of fun stuff doing that next week.
Very cool.
I'm not going to be wearing one of these the whole time though. I tried one of them on and it was a little snug because this is like set for kid size.
Yeah. All right.
Awesome. Well, we had fun with you guys today.
And Amy, are there any questions, or Kelly for you? Any questions, anybody?
You want to pull up this one? No,
Yeah, no questions.
so-
All right.
We want to see what you made. If you made our ghost shirt today, we want to see that. If you made your own applique Halloween shirt or treat bag or something, we want to see what you appliqued from learning these techniques today. So if you could, and I know Amy's going to drop these in the chat box, use the hashtags when you post your picture of what you made. Make it with Michael classes, and Singer Sewing. I have it kind of written down here, but they'll drop it in the chat, and save those hashtags so we can see when you share those pictures of what you made, because that's why we like doing all of this. We like to inspire you to be creative and try new things with sewing.
All right. Yeah, and we have 2 more classes this month. Yeah.
So next week is the kids felt mask. And then the week after that, we're gonna make a last minute quick Halloween costume. And it's a flamingo. I can't keep it a secret any longer. I am obsessed with this thing. It's so cute. I love flamingos.
And it's for an adult, right?
It is
So
for
that
an
is
adult,
for
but
an
you
adult.
could make it for
For
a
a
kid.
kid.
We're
Okay.
actually doing it on
Alright.
an apron.
Okay.
So it's easy
Wonderful.
wear. So you can make it on an adult apron. You can make it on a kid's apron. But it's going to be really fun. So we'll be doing those over the next 2 weeks on Wednesday, same time, same place.
Yeah.
And we appreciate you guys tuning in.
And I just saw a couple of things, guys. glad that you, we appreciate that you learned something and you're going to be
Yeah.
using the stabilizers because that is very important. And of course, your sewing machine. So
Yes.
anyway, all
I'm
right.
glad that you had some good takeaways today.
Thank you, everybody.
Thanks,
We
guys.
appreciate it. Thank you, Kelly. Take care, everyone.
See you next week.
Bye.
Bye.
Bye.